everybody. Yeah, good morning. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you do have a voice, you have a community, and you are never, ever alone. Today's guest, I'm very excited to introduce you to. With it's gonna be a crazy it's going to be a topic we don't talk about much on the show, but it's super important. So with domestic abuse in her background, Dr. Shafer Stedron is passionate about empowering others to achieve their fullest potential through her neuroscience informed life coaching, which I think is really cool. It's always fascinating to me. People that come on the show, so many people that have come on the show, they're using things that was probably hurtful in their past, but they're empowered now and they're using it for something good. And I love that. So cool. So Dr. Shafer is one of those as well. And she specializes in mindset work, recovering from trauma, incorporating new healthy habits, and discarding old habits that hold you back. Because who needs those? Dr. Shafer is a neurologist, a life coach, author, publisher, and host of the Health and Healing podcast Talks with Dr. Shafer. And Dr. Shafer is driven to help people to reclaim their stories and build their most beautiful future. I can't wait for you to meet her. Let's make sure I have everything, all our ducks in a row here. There we go. Dr. Shafer, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's such an honor to be here with you.
This is so cool. So this is not the first I was on your show not that long ago, or we recorded one. I'm trying to remember. Okay. So if you want to see what Dr. Shafer in her element doing the podcast, that would be a really cool thing too. So we'll talk about that a little bit too, I'm sure, but I'm going to pop this up here right now and just throw this out there to everybody in the audience right now. We're just going to kick it off first thing and say anything we talk about today, whether it has something to do with anything you hear today that you're like, whoa, that's me, or that's somebody I know, or somebody I love, and that rings a bell, and some light bulb goes off. This is where you want to go. This QR code will lead you to a website where you can reach out to Dr. Shafer, and or if you're watching, depending on if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can just comment, say, hey, Dr. Shafer, let's have a conversation, and we can reach out to you that way. So, so Dr. Shafer, if you are willing, can you just share a little bit to open the show about the domestic abuse that you endured that kind of kicked all this off and how it impacted your day to day?
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for the introduction. I greatly appreciate it. And I'm so passionate about this because domestic abuse and intimate partner violence is a pervasive problem in our society and across the world. And like the other conditions that you have spoken about and you have advocated for bringing into the light, it's something that often goes unseen. If we look at statistics of even just reporting, right, you can't really understand the gravity or the size of a problem if you don't have the actual raw data to tell you, people like yourself, how many people have hydrocephalus? Once we know how many people, what subtypes do they have, right? What are the issues? What ages are they presenting at?
Yeah.
What do their doctors need to do so that they are practicing the best medicine, right? So when we have these rare or invisible conditions, we need our tools even more to understand them better.
Yes.
Unfortunately, with things like domestic violence and intimate partner violence and abuse, there is an intentional environment and shield of shame and blame around this condition, around this really violent act that's perpetrated on people, on men and women, that prevents people from often reporting it. Often only 20-25% of cases are actually reported when it comes to things like rape and physical assault. Most of those go unreported. And unfortunately, the statistics are even worse for people receiving what would be even close to justice when they do report these problems, which again, not only do we have the societal issues with the shame and the blame and not wanting to potentially lose your family, lose your friends over reporting this, face a lot of legal issues, but then also knowing that if you speak out, you may not be supported. And then maybe you don't have another place to live. Maybe you're living with that person and you know that you're going to have to, if you report it to a police station or a hospital, go home to them afterwards because you feel you don't have somewhere else to go. So that's why it's so important. And I'm so grateful for you creating this brave space where we can have this conversation because it's really difficult to have, but it is so important. And for me to get to your question, with all of that background as to why often victims remain silent, when we are in that state of feeling shame and blame, psychologically, it's not unusual to internalize that and make excuses and come up with reasons why actually you aren't a victim and why this is okay. Because if you were to face the truth, you'd have to leave, and that may feel impossible. And I can tell you for me, for a really long time, I convinced myself that things were a way that they weren't until an external person, my best friend, told me for the first time, I'd never heard this before in my life, "Do you know that you matter?"
Ooh.
And that question changed my life, and that was the first time after decades of being in a situation that was not sustainable and was becoming less and less so with every passing minute towards that time of the duration of this relationship. It took that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to have these conversations and to hear, even if it's not someone in your family circle or your friends or your doctor that's saying you matter, even hearing these stories in the media, in a movie, like the recent movie It Ends With Us,
Mm-hmm.
hearing these externally can sometimes just be that first little crack in the facade that actually helps you start to make different choices to strengthen yourself, empower yourself, to choose safety, to choose better for your children if you have children
Yeah.
involved. But it's a step-by-step process, and these conversations are a big part of facilitating that.
Man, no kidding. It can be, yeah. And that is, you hit the nail right on the head there. It's so tough sometimes. We've had a couple people on the show that have talked about similar things. One was in the military, and there was a superior officer that was the perpetrator, and and different
Mm.
things. That no matter what the situation is, though, no matter who the aggressor and who the victim and who the whatever is all in the mix there, it's so important to have these conversations. And so this has been a long time coming. It's been a long time since we've talked about something like this. So I'm so glad you're here to do that
Mm.
with us. So it's overdue, I think.
Yeah.
So you talk about domestic violence, domestic abuse, all as an invisible condition, which it
Mhm.
very well can be.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most significant invisible part of that? What, yeah.
Isolation is
Mm,
a key, a cornerstone of abuse. And to speak to something
mm,
that you alluded to with having experienced, similar dynamics and conversations you've had and people in the workplace and the military and in other situations,
mhm,
it all boils down to, and I was speaking to an expert on abuse. Her name is Dr. Christine Colchiola, and I highly recommend anyone who's seeking support for coping with domestic abuse and potentially leaving a marriage. She has excellent research, and she's an excellent advocate. So go look into her work as well.
nice.
One thing that she said to me that is so true is that coercive control is really the cornerstone of all abuse,
Mm,
right? Of all hate crime,
yeah,
of racism, patriarchy, all of these things exist because you have one entity coercively trying to exert control over another. and not accepting or validating or acknowledging their autonomy
Yeah.
as a human.
Right.
And I think that can even be considered when we have an invisible condition like migraine or another condition, a neurological condition that may be not visible,
Yeah.
a condition that involves pain. And you go into a healthcare setting and you are asking for support, but no one can see those symptoms.
Yeah.
There's a disparity there, and there's a feeling of needing to prove oneself, and then shame comes up. And again, it comes into these power plays and these control plays that happen when what we are experiencing is invisible. And
Yeah.
in abuse, what often happens, it's very unfortunate, but not if someone has experienced or is experiencing abuse and they recognize this in themselves, it's really important that they don't take blame upon themselves for this, but they recognize that often what victims may do is they may actually play a part in isolating themselves, in shaming themselves.
Sure.
They may
Sure.
withdraw because in that moment, that may feel safe, right? Well, my partner
Mhm.
doesn't like it when I go out with my friends. So to stay safe and to keep them happy, I'm I'm not going to go to ladies' night anymore. I'm going to stay in. Well, but now you've lost your support system. And yes, it may have satisfied your partner because you're under more of their control, but it's made you actually long term less safe. And
Right.
so that's why the work I do in coaching that I think is so fundamentally important for any aspect of our health, whether or not we're suffering from abuse or we have other conditions like seizures, migraines, we have to make sure that our mindset is such that we are keeping ourselves safe and at the forefront at all times. If we're not healthy, we can't take care of our children. If we're not healthy, we can't do well at work. If we're not healthy, we can't be a good partner. We have to stop thinking that it's selfish to take care of ourselves and understanding that actually prioritizing ourselves is the first step to being the people that we want to be, to being the person that we want to be. So if you're in a relationship that's explicitly demanding of you, or implicitly, right? They're implying it. Often they
Yeah.
won't say it, but you know that it's expected and you know there will be a consequence if you don't. If they are implying explicitly or implicitly that you need to sacrifice yourself to be a good partner, etc., to be a good worker, that's a giant red flag. And there's nothing you could ever do to satisfy that person. There's nothing. You
Yeah.
need to prioritize yourself and your safety and get away from that situation because that situation is not for you and it is harming you.
Yeah. And it can be something even as simple as passive aggressive behavior, right? Like it's
Mm.
like you say something that like sounds innocent, but it's passive aggressive. It's like under your breath aggressive kind of, or if there's narcissistic tendencies in one side of the relationship, right? It can sneak up on you almost,
Yeah.
it comes, it's like I don't even I've never experienced that in a relationship that in my marriage or anything, but I've seen it in other people, and it's
Mm.
so crazy because they don't see it coming. And it's so hard to
Yeah.
so how do you, if you have somebody that that you love that's in a situation like that, what would be the best first thing to do
Mm.
to say, hey, by the way, this is, because they're probably going to coil back, I'm guessing, and protect
Mm.
that, right?
Yeah,
And
they
say,
have
no, no, no,
to
no,
be,
that's not
yeah,
good, right?
absolutely. They have to be in a state of readiness. A really simple example of this is quitting smoking, right?
Okay.
If you smoke and you go to the doctor, it takes on average 9 times having a conversation with them for them to quit smoking.
Okay.
So that tells you it probably wasn't the physician bringing it up 9 times. It was
That's
that
true.
this person had to come to this decision on their own.
Mm.
Perhaps, hopefully, the physician just being like, "Hey, I'm here. by the way. You want to talk about that? No? Okay. You want to talk about that? No? Okay. Right? So we
Yeah.
know people aren't going to change their circumstances until they're in a state of readiness, but knowing that they have love and support no matter what is really key.
Yeah.
And so if you are friends with someone, and this is something that I've learned over time, because I think especially as women, and you may not
Mm.
be able to relate this as,
I mean,
as a man.
I,
Um,
yep.
so you may or may not be able to relate to this sensation of or experience that, often when young women, for example, will couple, friends are just like, "Oh my gosh, he's so amazing. He's so wonderful." And you also are just so excited and over the moon. So you're also like kind of love bombing your friends about this person. Like, "Oh my gosh, he's so amazing. He's everything I ever dreamed he was." And everyone's so excited, and that's great. And it's great to be in that position. But one thing that I've learned over time with my personal experience and experience with friends and with coaching is, you know, that's great. I'm so glad you're happy.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're happy. Not, oh, he's such a great guy. Because at the end of the day, how well do we know people? It takes a really long time for us to get to know people. So I'm not going to assume the worst of people, but when we're
Right.
supporting our friends in their relationships, it may be helpful to actually take a position of, I'm so glad you're happy. And you know what? If something, heaven forbid, something happens in the future with or without this partner, I love you and I'm here for you. And as maybe not supportive as that might sound, we all know that a lot of relationships don't last. And when we're leaving relationships, we often have this feeling of shame of, oh my gosh, my friends love them. And oh, I was saying how great they were. And when I
Yeah.
look back, I actually was saying that because I was kind of covering up some things, which a lot of us do because we want to protect our dream.
Of course.
We want
Yeah.
to be right about this person. And it's really important to understand when you are leaving an abusive situation to be careful about who you are sharing your truths with, your really
Yeah.
naked truths,
Yeah.
because they also have to be in a state where they're able to support you. And what happens oftentimes is when you challenge someone's beliefs about a mutual contact that
Mhm.
they have a really positive impression of, they may not know them well, but they've built this caricature up in their mind.
Yeah.
Their natural reaction is, oh, that's not what I know about him or her.
Sure.
Come
Defend them.
on.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Is
Yeah.
to defend them. It's kind of a
Mhm.
natural reaction, natural social reaction. So you have to also be careful too, because when you're in that stage of trying to share your truth, when something has happened to you
Yeah.
and that's the feedback you receive, that can re-traumatize you or
Yeah.
re-stigmatize you and
Yeah.
put you back where you were and say, you know what, it must be me. It must be me. It's not them. So
Yeah.
to your question, how can we be good friends if someone is coming to us with this? Well, one, we have to create a space where they would come to us to begin with. And I think that does begin with letting your friends know your friendship isn't conditioned on their social status, on their work, on
Of
their
course.
partner, right? I
Yeah.
love you. And whatever
Yeah.
serves you in your life makes me happy. Whatever doesn't serve you, let's figure out how to distance you from it because your health is paramount and I love you. And so I think that the best thing to do is create that environment to begin with. And then when and if someone comes up to you with these concerns, don't feel it's so reflexive for us to feel we need to jump in and save someone with a statement. Those statements
Yeah.
are often not helpful. And so actually to just
No.
create that space.
Yep.
Create that space. I'm here to listen to you and ask curious questions. That's the best thing you can do for someone who's coming to you with these concerns.
Nice. Yeah, that's actually yes. I've I've heard what you said in other forms, in other situations, and it's so consistent and it's so true. Yeah. Yeah. Don't just and sometimes it just needs you to listen. Sometimes it just needs you to be there. Sometimes it like don't just jump to and this is I know yeah, I'm going to throw myself under the bus here, guys. Don't kick into solution mode all like full steam ahead first thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's that's a whole nother show maybe, but but I feel like that's our go-to as guys. It's like, oh, we can fix this, you know
Yeah.
but sometimes you're not there to fix it. You're there to listen and to just be there for the person and let them and ask questions, but really maybe not.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Most often not.
Most
Most
when
often
in
it's
doubt, yeah. Zip
yeah,
it.
it's really important, and I think to just also not have our blinders on, because again, to go back to that really kind of cornerstone fact that turns a lot of us into flying monkeys,
Yeah,
from The Wizard of Oz or
yeah,
from my beloved newer movie Wicked, the musical Wicked. It's really quite easy to be turned into a flying monkey. Have you seen the new Wicked with,
no,
Glinda and Elphaba? I'm sure many
mm-mm.
of your listeners have, and I highly recommend that they enjoy it and really watch it on a deeper level, kind of on a psychological character level.
Okay.
And in the movie, Glinda's turned into a flying monkey.
Mm,
Glinda loves Elphaba.
yeah,
And what happens in abuse, a flying monkey is someone who gets utilized by the coercive controller, by the abuser, to do their dirty work for them,
yeah,
essentially. Because often what happens is to keep their hands clean, they've learned how to triangulate, how to involve other people and get them to kind of hold up this false world
mm,
because their world isn't real. And so they need other people to buy into it. And when you suddenly, as the victim, stop buying into it, that's a real affront to who they are and to their
yeah,
character. And that can lead to a worsening of the abuse, unfortunately. And
right,
that's why when we talk about being really prepared to leave an abusive situation, one, be cautious who you involve. They need to be in a state where they can support you and where they won't actually end up being pulled into this affront against you when you're trying to leave. That's really important. Another thing that is just hugely important is to work on yourself, on your sense
yeah,
of belief in yourself, moving away from isolating yourself, making sure that your life habits are such that they are healthy for you and good for you and not harmful.
yeah,
Because what often has happened as we get deeper and deeper into this sense of victimhood, you can set into a feeling of apathy and of hopelessness. And we may stop taking care of ourselves, right? We may not
yeah,
be in good physical form. We may not
right,
be going to see the doctor. I hadn't seen the dentist in over 10 years
yeah,
at the end of
yeah,
my relationship, which is for my personal circumstances that I won't list. It's really like an astounding fact that I hadn't seen
yeah,
the dentist, but I was told I didn't need to.
yeah.
You're fine. You don't need to.
Wow.
And, with childcare and work and everything, without that buy-in from your partner, you may not
It's
be able to
easy.
go to the dentist.
Yeah, it's easy not to. Yeah,
It's,
exactly.
and when they're like, no, 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 don't do that. No, don't go to the doctor. You're fine. Um, don't work outside the home. It's fine. I'll take care of you.
Yeah,
Don't do,
yeah,
all these decisions that kind of seem maybe for your best interest in the beginning or make sense. All of a
right.
sudden, they build up and your health is degraded, your self-worth is degraded, and now you're in a really weakened state, and it's
Yeah,
much harder for you to choose yourself and leave.
true.
And that's why when you're in that process and that facade starts to get cracks and you start to feel that, I think I gotta go. I've got to move. It's so important to have resources like the conversation we're having now,
Yep.
kind of an icebreaker. But
Yeah,
then also there are so many incredible books and podcasts,
and yeah,
so many
100%.
things to listen to just continue to feed your soul and feed that sense of belief in yourself and
Yep,
to understand it's not going to happen overnight. This may take months. This may take
right.
years to get to a place where you've rebuilt yourself enough to feel strong enough to make the choices you need to for your safety and
Absolutely.
to reclaim your life.
Absolutely. That is so true. And and we're going to talk more about that, but this is a good place for a break. We need to take a break here real quick and make the sponsors happy. So we're going to do that here. We'll just be back in a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere. And we're going to talk more about, you know, we'll cover a little more of that on the other side of the break, but we want to get into the more of the story of, you know, your decision to reclaim your story and get, I mean, we're gonna talk about some good stuff on the other side of the break, guys. Stick around, don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes.
In a world where office workers typically receive 130 daily emails and have an 8-second attention span, CoreCentrica, with her 4 decades of international marketing experience, has partnered with the Learning Code Institute and their 30 years of neuroscientific research. Together, we are crafting unique messaging strategies that resonate, connect, and ultimately convert our target audiences. CoreCentrica, where award-winning creativity and disruptive neuroscience come together. Scan this code now, or call and click, and let us show you how CoreCentrica's partnership with the Learning Code Institute is influencing how businesses connect with their audience, foster engagement, and achieve conversions.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
Hey, everybody. Before we bring back Dr. Shafer, I want to talk to you about InvisibleCondition University. So InvisibleCondition University is something that, honestly, that I wish I would have had 10 years ago. I've had 4 brain surgeries and 2 others in the last 11 years. It's been a little bit of a busy time around the Jeff Pearson household. And every time I had surgery, my wife, Catherine, and I were kind of, I mean, once you leave the hospital, they can't really help you. You go home, they don't chase you home and ask how else they can help and set you up at home and stuff. So we created ICU. We wanted to create a place for people like us, maybe like you, that could have a community that listens, that cares, that'll walk with you through whatever you're dealing with, no matter what it is. We meet on Zoom twice a month, the first and third Tuesday of every month. And we encourage you to bring, we want to provide a safe space for you and your caregiver and your sister and your mom and whoever's helping with your care. We want to be that safe space to be able to ask questions and vent frustrations and maybe find information that you're not getting from the medical providers and stuff. Or at least, I don't know. Everybody's situation is different, right? We want to walk through that with you. If you want to learn more or receive a free 30-day membership, please go to myfreegiftfromjeff.com or scan the QR code, and we'll see you there. All the information you would ever need to learn about the community is right there on the website, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the next one, which I believe is going to be February. What is it? February 4th. Yeah, February 4th. Pretty sure that's the first Tuesday in February. So, all right, we'll see you then. I'm going to bring Dr. Shafer back on the show. Here we go. All right, now we're talking. Okay, so, so we've got pardon me, we've got a good background here of, okay, this is what happens. This is what happened to you. This is what's been going on. This is what's, and by the way, I just want to throw this out to the audience again. If you're listening to this, if you listened to if you came in late in the first segment, or you're just coming now, if you have questions about anything you hear on this show today, you can grab the QR code here, scan that QR code right there. And Dr. Shafer will be more than happy to connect with you, or reach out through Facebook and YouTube, depending on where you're watching. If it's E360 or Facebook and YouTube, real easy to reach out and just request, just say, hey, that sounds like me. Can we talk? And we'll connect you. So,
Yeah.
So what was I said at the beginning, before the break, we were going to come back and we're going to move forward here, man. So what was the turning point? What was the turning point after all of that allowed you to reclaim your story and begin building, what you're doing now?
Well, I love how you point out reaching out and really leaning into if something resonates with you.
Oh yeah.
Because that's so key. And can you think of how many times in your life something resonated with you, but you kind of held back, like, oh, they wouldn't want to hear from me, or,
Right.
Who am I to reach out?
I'll write it down. I'll think of it later.
Yeah, that's a part of our conditioning too, this
Mhm.
kind of feeling of not enoughness.
Yeah.
And that's going to keep us stuck. That's going to keep us stuck in, as you talked about in the introduction of what I do, stuck in our limiting beliefs and the things that are keeping us feeling stuck on what I liken to this hamster wheel of trauma, of circumstance of our life, where we just feel like we're just giving so much energy and effort and time. We're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
When the reality is that it's a hamster wheel, it's not a cage. We can step off.
Yep.
But that requires, like, you can't just step off, right? Like, you'd literally fall, everything would break. Like, you can't just step off. You have to slow down, you have to stop, and you have to change your momentum. That's not a simple process, and it takes a lot of support and intentionality and belief in yourself that you can, because you're going to keep running that race until someone or something triggers you to understand that if you don't stop what you're doing, you're just going to keep going on this same race that you can't win.
Right.
And so for me, I shared earlier, really just the seemingly simple but life-changing moment, my friend, just saying, when I was at just one of my lowest moments, do you know that you matter? That was enough to ignite in me a different way of thinking. And so then I looked into just incredible. I found Les Carter. He's a therapist. He's retired now, but he has wonderful YouTube videos and courses on dealing with controlling people. That's how he phrases what he does. And for me, his work was transformative in my way of thinking. And then as time went on, then I started listening more to, episodes by Lewis Howes and his School of Greatness. And I started learning about Jay Shetty, and I started reading amazing books about empowerment and dealing with controlling people and believing in yourself. And just brick by brick, I took what had felt like a cage and I was actually creating like a path forward. And that is the key. But it's really important to understand that when you're in that restorative process, you've got to do a lot of breaking to do the building. And I call that the messy middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's going to be the time when some days you're going to feel great. And some days you're just going to feel awful, like you can't go any further. But to recognize and have faith that, okay, I've seen a day like this before. I've seen what felt like my worst day, and the next day always came. I always got through it. And to fall back on that, onto your strength and what you truly know about yourself, and let go of the limiting beliefs that have been telling you prior to going on this journey and setting your intention to reclaim your story. Those beliefs might have been, and I call this, I have this tool that I developed that I call the butt wheel, the BUT wheel. And I say that very intentionally because it makes you laugh.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
And once we're laughing, we're disarmed. We're in a much better place to learn something than when we're kind of like on edge, right? So now we're laughing, we're cool. We're like, okay, what's the butt wheel, Dr. Shafer?
Right.
The butt wheel is, so we're in this messy middle. We're feeling like we don't have what it takes to move forward. We have the tools that we have. That's all we have. And if I tell you then, well, read this book and take all these tools and then build your most beautiful future, you might say, but I don't have those tools. And it might be too big of a leap for you to take. And even the thought of it sets you backwards.
Yeah.
So where I really like to start with people on this healing journey to navigate that messy middle and start to get that new data that tells you, no, I actually can. I can do this, is to take those beliefs that we have and those goals that we have and change the momentum of our thoughts. So instead of thinking, I want to go back to school, but
Okay.
I don't think like I never went to college. I want to go to college, but I never went to college. We can say, I never went to college, but I want to go to college.
Yeah.
How do you feel in your body? Something as simple as that. I literally, no new words, just turn the words on their heads. One was, I want to do that, but I can't. I've never done it before. And the other was, I've never done that before, but I want to.
Yeah. Or even better,
Yeah.
and I want to.
It's really interesting. So this is something that a lot of people they're really afraid of the word but.
Yeah.
Because in their mind it does have this negative connotation.
Well, in my world, when somebody says, it's like somebody saying, I love you, but you've just negated everything that came before the but. So if you say and,
exactly,
then it's I love you and, or always answering a question with a positive. Absolutely. And we're going to go about it this way, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
But let's think about what we're trying to do with the butt wheel.
All right.
We are actually trying to, over time, negate the limiting belief.
Okay.
And if we say, and, we're allowing the negative belief to stay a little too close to our goal.
Okay.
Right? We're kind of like putting them on the same level. And so what I'm suggesting, and I want you to try it and let me know, like under the show notes in a few weeks, tell me like, okay, I tried this, Dr. Shafer. I said, no, I'm not saying and. I'm going to say but, and then the positive, I'm going to say the negative thought, but then I'm going to say but, and then I'm going to focus on the goal and see if that shifts something. Because what it should do over time, this tool, and different tools work for different people. It's really important to highlight, is not every tool work for everyone. But I do suggest people play with this and get really intentional with it and say, one of the things example I've used recently is, I want to do yoga, but I've never done yoga before. That's something a lot of people can relate to, right? Like, oh, I'm going to look silly. I'm going to feel awkward. I've never done it before. I have to go do it in public. Oh, it's horrible. So when you say, I've never done yoga before, but I want to try yoga, that has elevated the I want to try yoga. And it's almost left the negative statement further in the past, and it's propelled us forward. So I love this tool, and I'd love for people to try it. And like you said before, reach out to me and let me know what works for you, what tweaks you came up with. Like, yeah, I tried the butt thing, and then I did this, what I really like to do is I like to draw these things out, actually put the wheel and put the big limiting belief and the big goal, and have actually the lines with the arrows to really visualize it, and then start to put all the supportive stuff around it. So we've got the limiting beliefs. I can't do yoga. Okay, well, why do you think you can't do yoga? Well, I'm not that physically fit. Okay, tell me what an average day is for you. And so then you go through an average day with someone and they tell you all the hundreds of things they're doing that actually show that their body is quite strong. Their body is performing well. They're showing potential to try new things. And so when we do that and we actually list all the things they're doing with their body, and then we say, okay, let's look at the wheel and let's look at all these things. And then they look at it and they're like, goodness, I think I can do yoga. I'm pretty strong. And so it just helps to visualize like this tiny little but statement that's held so much power over us and over where we're putting our energy and where our path is taking us. And instead just changing our momentum and focusing on the goal and finding all the data points that tell our nervous system like, oh, actually, yeah, I can do that. So I will.
That's awesome. Yeah, no. Okay. All right. You got me at least thinking about it. Everybody's got a different perspective on that. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, think about that while we go to this last break, because we're going to go to one more and then we're going to come back and talk about some really cool stuff. One of the things I want to talk about on the other side of the break is hope. So we're going to do that. And among other things, we'll get to some other stuff too, but everybody stick around. We'll see you in just a couple more minutes.
Hi, I'm Jake, co-founder and CEO of One Hope. My friends and I started this company in 2007 out of the back of this truck on a mission to enrich people's lives through wine. Today, we've grown into a state-of-the-art Napa Valley winery that proudly houses a portfolio of award-winning wines which have touched lives through over 40,000 nonprofits at home and around the globe. And it's happening every day. Being rooted in local communities and contributing to initiatives that uplift neighborhoods, celebrate cultures, and promote community. It's what got us here. You see, through every bottle sold, your purchase can make a direct impact on the causes you care about. One Hope's cause of choice has given back over $10 million and counting.
Hey there. You know, every time someone comes into your business or website and uses their card to pay, a percentage of that gets folded back into the system. But it can go to Hydro with Hope instead. If you'd like your business to support us rather than feed back into the system, scan the QR code and we'll show you how to do that while saving your business money.
Hey friends, this is Ben Hummel. I'm the host of the Genius Way Show, where you'll learn to access your inner gifts, talents, and callings and how to express them out in the world. Join me here each Sunday at noon Pacific time on the Achieve TV network, right here on E360 TV.
All right, here we go. All right, here we are, and we got about 10 minutes left. And I want to be right at the beginning here at the segment. I just want to ask you a question that I ask everybody. Well, almost everybody, but 99% of the people that are on the show, I want to ask this question. And there's no wrong answer. They're all awesome. In the tough times, in the times that were, you didn't think you'd claw your way back, and all the things. There's always some days like that. How do you still maintain hope?
Well, and like you said, it's going to be different for everyone. For me, my kids are a key part of how I can keep going, even on really challenging days. And you were asking earlier about how did I reclaim my story? What was happening was people were reaching out to me when I was in that messy middle, when I was stuck in those limiting thoughts, when I felt like my life was just an absolute pile of rubble. Because they were seeing that I had tools that could help them. Things were resonating with them, and they were actually reaching out to me before I was a Jay Shetty certified life coach. They were seeking life coaching from me.
Nice.
And it was really fascinating because one, you're in this position where you feel, why is someone asking me for help? What do I have to offer, right? You're in that state of disempowerment. But life has a way of showing you the beliefs you hold that aren't right and challenging those until you change your beliefs, right? Life has a way of making you uncomfortable until you move. It's not going to let you stay in the wrong place. It's going to make it hurt until you change. And so for me, really leaning into that, what I call the trigger detector, when things triggered me and when things were uncomfortable, instead of backing away from it, really leaning into it and learning from those experiences and knowing that I wasn't doing it just for myself, but that I was doing it to set an example for my children. Because especially when you have been through situations where abuse is involved, the last thing in the world you want is for that to become a generational issue.
For sure.
And so you want to do everything you can in your power to empower them. You can't change those circumstances necessarily, but you can do everything you can to tell them how important their voice is.
Yes. Love that. Love that. Yeah, that reminds me of the story of the two old guys sitting on the porch, and they got a hound dog over here, and he's just howling away, you know. And one guy looks to the other and says, "What's wrong with your dog?" He says, "Oh, he's sitting on a nail. It's cold." He goes, "Why doesn't he move?" He goes, "Oh, don't worry about him. It only hurts enough to howl, you know." So yeah, he doesn't want to move yet. It doesn't hurt bad enough. So
it will. It will.
So, you know, sometimes you got to be ready to move.
You do. And you have to feel like you can too, because, you know, that dog, that's a great example, right? Because we condition dogs to accept certain things, right? We train them to accept certain things. Don't bark, don't do this, stay there. You know, we do that. And the thing is, in coercive controlling family systems, we also train our children often to stay in situations that are harming them. We do. Yikes. The abusive person can do that, but also the person who's being abused can do that through their own modeling.
Or the person in the family that doesn't see it and says, "Well, it doesn't look that bad. You should just stick it out. You know what? Just stick it out. It'll probably be okay." Right.
Stick it out for the kids. That's often something that you hear as well.
Yep.
And these are very dangerous things to say. And it's, you know, circles back to the conversation we had earlier. When you don't know what to say, don't say anything other than, "I'm here for you. I'm holding space. How are you?" And ask questions, but don't make these statements that often can be quite dangerous and they're misinformed. So yeah, for me, focusing on empowering my children for their health, their wellness, their mindset, for their future is incredibly important. And that's why I started my children's literature focused publishing house, Little House of Dreams Publishing. My daughter, you know, has been on this journey with me. She just turned 11 last month.
Right.
And when she was 8, she published her first book about wildlife. And then when she was 9, she published her second. When she was 10, she published her third. And now she's working on her fourth, which is about shelter animals. And it's to support the Humane Society and their shelters.
Nice.
And so for her, we took a time in her life that was confusing and difficult and painful. And we actually took her energy and we allowed her this outlet to empower herself and to show how important her voice is. And now, you know, she's touring the country. She's going on. We were just in LA last week, and she was interviewed for NBC LA. They're starting a segment that was inspired by her about children who are doing amazing things. And, you know, she got to meet with Craig Melvin of the Today Show in the fall on a opportunity to read her book on Kidlit TV. Like, she's done all these incredible things. And for her, she's so inspired by people want to hear me and they want to help me and they want to help animals. She's so inspired by the response that she gets that she even started her own podcast, What's Up Young Authors, where she interviews other kids to help them promote the work they're doing. And so
Amazing.
She talks about a lot is
Yeah.
that when you empower someone, the power that you give them, it's incredible the good that they can do in the world. And that's what I want to do with Talks with Dr. Shafer. Now that I have reclaimed my story for myself, for my family, for my clients, I want to use this show and this platform and opportunities to be on wonderful shows like yours to just spread that message and the fact that we can master our mindset, we can reclaim our nervous systems, our responses to our world, so that then we can reclaim our stories and our lives and build the future we want instead of being stuck on these hamster wheels, stuck in these cyclones of chaos and trauma. We can choose a different life for ourselves.
Love that. Yeah. Because you said the word choose a whole bunch. That's what it is. You have to be ready and you have to choose. Nobody's going to choose it for you, right?
No.
So
You have to. Yeah, you have to. People can support you and love you. You don't have to be alone on this journey,
right.
but you have the pen. You have to write the story.
Man, good call. Love that. That's incredible. Well, Dr. Shafer, we are out of time, unfortunately. I feel like we could go another hour if we had it, but we don't. So, but I'm so glad that you're here, and thank you so much for your story and for being so open and doing what you're doing now in spite of what you've been through, and just thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's been so wonderful. And everyone, I look forward to connecting with you on my website. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing that with everyone and on Talks with Dr. Shafer. And I'm here for any support that I can give you. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. Okay, everybody, we'll leave this up here for just another minute, and then it's going away. So scan right now, and meet with Dr. Shafer, because she's awesome. So, okay, there it goes. All right. Man, thank you so much for being here, everybody. This was awesome. If this is your first time watching, thank you. Thank you for being here. If this is your 100th time watching, or you've been with us from the beginning and you're watching every show, thank you so much. Share what you enjoy, like, follow, subscribe, share all the things. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe so you can get that reminder next time the show is going to be on the air. And join us for our next show, which will be Tuesday, February 11th. And we'll have another incredible guest with an amazing story. And man, so glad you're here. And we'll see you on the next show. Till then, have an amazing day. See you soon.